The year is 1861. The United States was tearing itself apart. But while the armies clashed in vast, bloody formation, a different kind of war was being waged in the shadowed parlors of Washington, D.C., and the smoky back rooms of Confederate Richmond, the Information War. The Union's greatest vulnerability was not a shortage of men or materiel, but a dangerous lack of centralized intelligence. The existing military structure was riddled with sympathizers, double agents, and outdated procedures. To counter this, President Lincoln turned to the one man he trusted to see through the fog of treason, Allan Pinkerton. Pinkerton, a Scottish immigrant and pioneering detective famous for thwarting a previous assassination attempt on Lincoln, was abruptly thrust into the role of the Union's first spy master. He established the Pinkerton National Detective Agency as the precursor to the U.S. Secret Service and military intelligence. His task was monumental: to organize a network of agents, establish secure communication codes, and critically, to identify the enemy's psychological weaknesses. He aimed not just to gather facts, but to understand motive. The perfect agent for Pinkerton's vision was Timothy J. Webster, a former Pinkerton operative known for his flawless memory and unnerving ability to assume any persona. Webster was tasked with the most dangerous mission of the war: infiltrating the Confederate society, posing as a Southern gentleman with deep, entrenched loyalties. But the Confederate cause had its own weapon, one that went beyond traditional military codes. This weapon was a master cryptographer and psychological theorist named Dr. Josiah Thorne. Thorne, a former philosophy professor turned intelligence officer for Jefferson Davis, believed that the human mind itself was the most effective cipher. He didn't just create codes, he created psychological tripwires embedded in Confederate communication that were designed to exploit the cognitive biases and personal fears of any Northern agent who read them. This is the story of the birth of modern intelligence, the race to build the first comprehensive spy network, the devastating risks of deep cover, and the fatal collision between the man who mastered impersonation and the man who mastered the vulnerable human mind. Chapter 1. The Hand of the Detective and the Eyes of the Spy. 1. Pinkerton's Unruly Empire. Pinkerton detested the genteel, leisurely pace of Washington, D.C. His headquarters, a hastily secured room beneath the Treasury Building, was a whirlwind of activity, contrasting sharply with the bureaucratic torpor of the Capitol. He reported directly to General George McClellan, the temperamental commander of the Army of the Potomac, who often dismissed Pinkerton's findings as overly dramatic. "General," Pinkerton stated in one heated exchange, slamming down a dossier detailing Confederate troop movements near Richmond, "they are using the telegraph, but they are also using a network of women couriers, the lady spies, who rely on social access. Our counter-espionage must move beyond maps. We must penetrate their parlors." Pinkerton's agents were an odd mix: theatrical stagehands, unassuming middle-aged women, and rough, highly disciplined former railroad detectives. He favored agents who could maintain a deep, sustainable cover, agents who could effectively become the people they were pretending to be. His most precious asset was Timothy Webster. Webster was known in the agency for his ability to shed his own personality. He could quote Shakespeare one moment and calculate artillery trajectories the next. He was tasked with the most crucial assignment: infiltrating the Confederate capital to identify the source of the persistent intelligence leaks plaguing the Union Army. In the late summer of 1861, Webster, assuming the identity of a wealthy, ardent secessionist traveling south from Philadelphia, kissed his wife Hattie goodbye, a farewell that felt chillingly permanent. He carried only a small encoded notebook and a forged letter of introduction that vouched for his unwavering Southern zeal. In Richmond, Dr. Josiah Thorne was quietly revolutionizing Confederate intelligence. Thorne was pale, scholarly, and had an intense, unnerving focus. He understood that simple substitution ciphers were easily broken. He sought complexity not in mathematics, but in semantics and human psychology. He developed the Visionaire polyalphabetic system, a complex layered cipher, but added a twist. Embedded within the seemingly random key phrases were emotional triggers. For example, a key phrase might reference the agent's wife or child. If an enemy intercepted the message, they would be tempted to use familiar, emotionally resonant words in decryption attempts, leading the Union agent down a dangerous, false path. Thorne briefed his small team of code clerks. "We are not hiding the truth. We are misdirecting the mind that seeks it. We must exploit the Northerners' hubris, their certainty that their science will triumph over our subtlety." Thorne's biggest success was the creation of a disinformation stream designed solely for the Union's burgeoning intelligence network. These ghost messages used a slightly modified, easier-to-break Visionaire cipher. The information they yielded, often concerning the location of Confederate supplies or minor troop movements, was just accurate enough to build Pinkerton's confidence, but ultimately designed to lead to disastrous tactical errors later on. Thorne's true mission was to expose the deep-cover Northern agent he suspected was operating in Richmond's highest social circles. He put out bait, a coded message mentioning a huge upcoming shipment of imported quicksilver, mercury, destined for a Richmond munitions factory, a message too easy for any Union spy to ignore. Timothy Webster was a sensation in Richmond. His charm, his generosity with Northern funds, and his convincing fervor for the Southern cause opened every door. He cultivated powerful friends, railroad magnates, prominent bankers, and critically, the chief clerk of the Confederate Secretary of War. He used a complicated system of micro-writing, writing information inside the borders of letters ostensibly about mundane financial matters, and a dead-drop system involving a specific pre-marked newspaper in a D.C. hotel. The information he was relaying back to Pinkerton was invaluable. Accurate supply chains, leadership anxieties, and confirmation of troop morale issues. But the cost of the deep cover was immense. Webster was forced to participate in pro-Confederate activities, deliver speeches, and publicly denounce the Union, all while maintaining the intense internal surveillance required for his mission. The isolation was profound. The stress began to crack his psychological armor. He fell ill, suffering from severe fevers, a common ailment in the swampy climate, but for Webster, the illness was a physical manifestation of his fractured identity. He had become too convincing. During his convalescence, a message from Pinkerton arrived, via an unreliable low-level courier, concerning Thorne's quicksilver bait. Pinkerton, buoyed by the previous ghost messages, believed the quicksilver shipment was real and urged Webster to confirm the delivery date, calling it a decisive target. Webster knew the source was too easy. His gut screamed trap. But the message contained one of Thorne's subtle psychological tripwires, inadvertently placed there by a Pinkerton code clerk. A phrase about Webster's unwavering loyalty to the cause, coupled with a slight modification to the cipher key referencing his wife's name, Hattie. His illness had weakened his critical mind. The emotional trigger, combined with the professional pressure, made him doubt his own instincts. Webster rationalized, "Pinkerton is asking me to verify the quicksilver. I must follow orders." Ignoring his internal alarm, he activated the dead drop for the message confirming the quicksilver delivery, a message that would lead the Union cavalry directly into a prearranged ambush and, more dangerously, provide Dr. Thorne with the fatal confirmation that the enemy was indeed compromised from within. The master spy, for the first time, had been read.